Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of The Career Climb. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, I'm trying out my new webcam, so let's see how it works today. But on The Career Climb, we spark conversations with industry leaders, executives, and professionals, and we share our perspectives on the career landscape, leadership, and workplace culture. If this is your first time tuning in or seeing my face, I'm your host, Julia Rock, founder and CEO at Rock Career Development. And I'm so excited that you are here. To catch the replay of this episode and all past episodes, you can connect with me here on LinkedIn if that's where you're watching, or you can visit rockcareer.com/CC archive to view our YouTube playlist. And so, since you are in the building with me tonight, I would love for you to stay engaged in the chat. I would love for you to comment and let me know, where you're watching from. If anything is resonating with you, anything's hitting home for you, if you have questions, whatever it might be, you like the shirt that I'm wearing, I don't know. But whatever it might be, I would love to hear from you in the chat and keep the conversation going and make sure it's an active dialogue. And so tonight, this is a solo episode. I'm going to actually put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Didn't do that before I got here. But tonight, I want to talk to you about being stuck in your career. So like I said, this is a solo episode. We'll have a guest next week. I've begun to really enjoy the solo episodes because it allows me to connect directly with you guys and connect with the community and have a conversation directly with you. So I'm going to keep a good balance of those going forward. And as I mentioned, I want to talk about being stuck in your career. I mentioned the idea of being stuck in your career a little bit with the session I did on frequently asked questions that I have received. And it's honestly something that has come up with pretty much every client that I have in a discovery call with, every potential client that I have kind of in recent months. For those who are employed right now, or even those who are unemployed, many of them feel like I am stuck. I am not moving forward. I feel held back in some way. And so I thought that this would be a good conversation to have tonight. And if you're watching and you're in the finance or accounting field in any industry, you should stay till the end because I have something special I want to share with you specifically. So if you're in finance and accounting, I would love for you to hang out to the end of the live stream. But when it comes to, feeling stuck in your career, I feel like there's some common themes that have come up, and I want to talk a little bit about those and also share some personal stories about that because I've had my own challenges with being stuck in my career. And when I think about the reasons people are stuck, I think the first thing that truly comes up is that people feel like they're doing work that no longer feels good to them. The work no longer feels good. It no longer feels interesting. And so people feel stuck. But the challenge with that is it's part of the reason you feel stuck is because you're afraid of going to do something else because you're afraid of failing. And because it's easy to say, oh, I just feel like I'm bored at work. I feel like I'm not moving forward. I'm doing the same thing. This work no longer feels aligned. I feel stuck. But when you dig to the next level of that, part of the reason you are feeling stuck is because you're actually afraid to try something else. And I talk a little bit about this in my TEDx talk, Why Everyone Loses When Employees Burn Out. And the fact that I personally, at the beginning of my career, I was in a job where I was doing practically data entry and I hated it. It sucked. But I was so afraid of trying something new and failing that I was willing to stay stuck in that job. I was going to keep going there day after day, punching in the data entry, punching in the keys. I was going to do that every day just because I did not want to try something else and fail at it. And it took someone else in my organization, a friend of mine, who actually encouraged me to apply for something else. But if you think about it, if someone didn't encourage me, I would have let my career continue to languish and stay stuck just because I was afraid of failing. And so I would ask if any of you who are watching, if you feel stuck, and but also if you've considered trying something new and you haven't, or because you're afraid of failing, you're afraid of, what might happen, of getting a rejection. If that is you, I would love to, I'd love to see some honesty in the chat, or you can DM me separately, but I would like to know if you've experienced this. But that's one major reason why people feel stuck. The second reason that people feel stuck is that, I'm not getting promoted. I don't feel like my career is moving up, or I'm not making enough money. Let's be real out here. Inflation is very real. So you feel like you're not making enough money. And again, I want to dig a little bit deeper into this simply because it's easy to stay on the surface. It's easy to say I feel stuck because on a surface level. But part of tonight's conversation is really challenging each of us, and myself included, to dig a level below that to really better understand why you may be stuck, so that you can actually take the actions to change where you are, to move forward, to get unstuck in your career. And so for those who were not promoted, or, you're not making enough money, part of the question is it that you have asked those questions? Is it that you have been held back? And I think about my own career. There was a situation where my career was being held back. My promotion was being held. And it wasn't until, and I'm going to talk about this later when we talk about action steps, but it wasn't until I started having conversations with other people and really stepping outside of the bounds of just, the one conversation I was having with my direct supervisor. It wasn't until I decided to deploy my other resources that I began to understand what was going on. And so if you're not making enough money, or if you're not being promoted and you want to stay in the organization that you're in right now, as an example, the question is, what action steps have you taken at that point? Because I asked my boss is one question, or it's one action. But if you've asked your boss that question and nothing else has happened, are you content to continue to stay there, or have you sought other actions? And like I said, we'll talk about that as we move forward as well. So those are the first two reasons. Feeling stuck because you're doing work that's not aligned, but you're afraid of failing. And then secondly, feeling stuck because you're not getting promoted or not making enough money. But the question is, what questions have you asked past, hey, I talked to my boss about it? The third thing is feeling stuck because you're not quite sure what to do with that degree you got. You're not really sure what's out there. Perhaps you got into one field, or you got into one job, and that's kind of what you have. And just sharing another personal story. My background is in finance and accounting. I don't have an HR background. So the career coaching and leadership development, this has all been, actually doing the work. And so I started my career in financial services. And when I went back to grad school, I was just like, I don't really know what I'm going to do when I graduate. I'm going to have an MBA. I'm going to have an accounting concentration, but I don't really know what I want to do, because I'm going to be a CPA. So if I'm not going to be a CPA, what are my options? And one of the action steps that I took was to go to the National Black MBA Fair, to see what companies were hiring and what kind of finance and accounting jobs were available. So that was a big action step for me, because you can Google, you can research, but it was also for me getting outside and seeing what companies are hiring, what kind of finance and accounting roles are they hiring for, and does my skill set match with that? Does my MBA align? Does my prior finance experience align? And really doing some of that, being out and pressing the flesh. And so the question I would have as we talk through the action steps, if you're not quite sure what to do with your degree, if you're not sure what's out there, what have you looked at? What have you spent your time on to kind of broaden your horizons and kind of widen the aperture a little bit for you to see, okay, beyond bookkeeping, beyond being a CPA, beyond being an auditor, what else is out there for the finance and accounting folks, or whatever field you might be in. The fourth thing that I have found when people are feeling stuck is because they're listening to other people. Listening to other people because somebody told you that, well, just wait it out, gain more experience. You don't need to move just yet, or things are comfortable for you here. Why mess up a good thing? Right. And that's a problem that some of my clients have faced when I talk to them about, well, hey, what has been happening in your career? What have you been doing? What have you been trying? And part of it is that, well, I've been doing this because it's a steady paycheck. And I said, well, okay, well, digging below that, it's a steady paycheck, but you don't like it. So what are the other reasons that you may be staying in there? Yes, you're getting paid, but you could get paid doing something else with your skill set. So let's take it another level deeper. And they talk about, well, I talked to my partner about this. I talked to my mom about this. I talked to my friend. And then you start to peel back the layers of the onion to find out that there are a bunch of people that are in their ears saying you should do this, you shouldn't do this, you should wait, etc. And so the question I would have for you is that if you're feeling stuck, is it partially because you have been listening to other people's input about your career? Now, don't get me wrong. This is not a slight on getting mentorship or getting insights from people. This is not a slight on that. But there's a difference between getting perspective so that you make sure that you're listening to different voices and just getting some insights versus, hey, I'm going to put my career on hold because someone told someone else who isn't me, who doesn't have my career vision, I'm going to put my career on hold because of that person's opinion. So that's the question I would also ask you is when you think about if you're feeling stuck in this moment, is it that you've been listening to other people? And that feeds kind of nicely into one of the last comments I have about why people feel stuck. And it's because you don't want to disappoint anyone, your family, your longtime mentor, people that you think look up to you. And I'll be honest here, transparent moment. So I left my full-time job in March of this year. I had been at my prior company for 12 years. And there are plenty of people that I spoke to who were like, girl, you leaving that good job? Why? And then, talking to family like, oh, so what are you going to do now? And there's a certain prestige with working on a particular type of company or making a certain amount of money. And that was something I battled before putting in my notice to leave, is that what are people going to think of me now? Because I've been, corporate leader and I've been put together and I've had all this stuff going for me. And then if I tell people I'm now leaving and I'm not going to have that anymore, what are they going to think of me? Are people going to be disappointed in me? Are they going to see me differently if I make this choice? And so I would ask you if you have felt that way, where you may be thinking about making a decision for your career. You want to pivot to something else. You want to try something new. Whatever it might be. You want to quit your job, whatever it is. Or have you been dealing with, hey, I don't want to disappoint someone. I don't want them to think differently of me. I don't want them to side-eye me. I don't want to be the topic of somebody's group chat. Whatever it is that something that is holding you in place? And so to quickly recap some of the reasons folks get stuck, and then we're going to talk about how do we start moving past this. And if you have questions, have thoughts, please go ahead and drop them in the chat, especially if you're here on LinkedIn, because I'm able to see those the easiest. Now, when we think about the 5 reasons, 1, you're feeling stuck because you're doing work that doesn't feel aligned. It's boring, it's stale, but you're maybe afraid of failing by doing something else. Or you may feel stuck because you're not getting promoted. You don't feel like you're making enough coins out here. But what action steps have you taken? Number 3, you're feeling stuck because you don't quite know what to do with that fancy degree you done spent your money on. And you don't know what's out there, what the opportunities are for you. Then number 4, you're feeling stuck because you're listening to other people who are telling you to wait, to get more seasoned, to get this, to get that. And then lastly, you're feeling stuck because you don't want to disappoint anyone. You don't want to disappoint your family, your friends, the people who look up to you. Maybe you're mentoring people. You don't want to disappoint anyone. And I know that that can be challenging, that these things can be challenging when you feel that way, as you heard some of my own personal stories as we went through some of that. So the question is, how do you actually start to move past some of this? And there are people who will give you techniques and mechanics and so forth, but I want to bring you into a state of what I call self-leadership and taking ownership. The reason for this is if you Google things and you haven't yet done the self-leadership, you haven't done the self-reflection, none of those techniques will help you. I will tell you, as someone who has been coaching for almost 20 years. Wow, it's been almost 20 years. That's crazy. But for someone who has been coaching for almost 20 years, when there has been a disconnect on my client being able to take a hard look at themselves and really do that evaluation, it's been hard for them to make progress no matter how many tools, spreadsheets, assessments. That stuff will not help you if you are not doing the self work and the self leadership. So let's first talk about the first area where I said that you don't feel aligned, the work feels boring, but maybe you're afraid of failing. Now, the question for you is, if you are afraid of failing, where does that come from? In my situation, it was because of how I was brought up. I was brought up in a West Indian household, and my dad had very high standards for us. Love you, Dad, if you're watching. This is no shade. But my dad had extremely high standards for us in terms of our ability to excel, because he and my mom were immigrants from Barbados. So the idea was that if we were born in this country, we had a lot of opportunity. There was nothing that we couldn't do because we were born in this country. We were citizens. We didn't have to overcome the hurdles that they did. So if we failed at anything, it was on us. And so that was something that I personally internalized. And so I was afraid of, hey, if I try to apply for something else, or if I try to do something else and I fail, then the words of my dad are going to come true. And I just felt like I don't want to disappoint my dad, or I don't want to be a failure, because I shouldn't be. I have all this opportunity, right? And so the question for you, yes, Jared, the parents, very much so. And so the question is for you, what is causing you to be afraid of failing? Where is that coming from? And then how can you start to deal with that? And it may be that you go through therapy. It may be that you have a counselor. Maybe it's that you journal. Whatever it might be, you can take some time to address why you feel afraid of failing. Because once you get over that fear of failing, you can pretty much do anything you want. I mean, at this stage, I jumped out the window and I'm a full-time entrepreneur. And we all know the statistics on someone being a full-time entrepreneur and the success that they usually have. But I'm no longer afraid to fail because I was willing to tackle that. So the question is, what is it that you need to do right now to start tackling that? The second thing is, if you aren't getting promoted, so we talked about the work that doesn't feel aligned and being afraid of failing. If we move on to number 2, if you aren't getting promoted, if you aren't making any money, what analysis have you done on that situation? And what I mean by that is, if you've asked your boss, hey, I want to get to the next level. I'm a analyst 1, I'm ready for analyst 2, or I'm a supervisor, I'm ready for manager. If you've had that conversation and it hasn't gone anywhere, the question is, what specific insights have you asked ask from your boss for feedback, to say, if they're saying, well, hey, now's not the time for you. Now, I don't want to move you just yet. The question is, why? Are you asking those tough questions? Or if they're saying not yet, if it's not an outright no, but it's a not yet, then the question is, are you asking for specific timelines? That if you're asking on August 15th and they're saying, hey, not yet, the question is, okay, maybe not yet. When are you thinking? When are you thinking? And this is where I want to introduce the concept of having a clear development and career plan. And I've mentioned that before, but I want to just talk about it a little bit more here. When you're having conversations about promotions with your boss, it's important for you to be able to reference back to whatever career plan or that you have, which means, what are the specific positions that they see you stepping into as you progress through your career in that organization? That should be a very clear discussion for you to ask them, what do you see me doing next? What's the trajectory or path that you have envisioned for me? Because if they don't have one of those, then that's a question for you as to how well does this organization see me? How much do they value me if they don't really have a plan for my career and are not willing to put one together? So that's the first thing about a career plan. The development plan is where you input the specific skills you need to be a success in your role, the specific skills and expertise and subject matter knowledge that you need to get to really excel and hit the milestones in your current role. Here's why this is important, because if you're having ongoing conversations with your boss about your progress, what you're working on, the achievements, that means you should be checking some of those boxes on the development plan. So if they're not willing to promote you and you've addressed and built up the knowledge and the skills and the expertise from that particular role, the question is, what's holding you there? What's holding you there? And they should be able to articulate, hey, you need to build more relationships. I want to see more leadership from you, whatever it might be. But having those two things, a career plan and a development plan, they will allow you to really help to drive the conversation with your boss about, where is my career going? I'm not moving forward. Again, you are the CEO of your career. If you wait for somebody else to do the work, it's not going to happen. It's always on you to drive and steer the ship of your career. And you may be sitting there thinking, well, Julia, I've asked my boss, I have a development plan and it's not going anywhere. Okay. So where are you leveraging other people in the organization? It may be a sponsor. It may be a mentor. It may be other people at your boss's level. And it's not about kind of trying to circumvent them, but it's understanding what other opportunities may exist in the organization and understanding the needs of those groups. Because sometimes you will have a manager who's saying, yeah, we're looking to fill this supervisor role and we're trying to look for talent. And that may be the step up that you need. And you can always have a conversation as to, are you looking internally? What's happening? Because they don't have to give you all the details because they can't share personnel information, but they can tell you, hey, this role's been open for a while. We're still looking. We're hoping to fill it by so-and-so. So the question is, are you leveraging other people in your organization to get some insights? And then also specifically when it comes to sponsors, are you leveraging those individuals who may have the juice to speak up on your behalf, to speak to your boss, to ask questions? I will say that this has happened personally in my career. When someone has tried to hold my career in place, there has been someone from on high that I had a relationship with that called that person to better understand what was going on. And that has happened a number of times in my career. And so if I didn't have those relationships, if I didn't have people that I could rely on and was sharing information with, then they couldn't call someone on my behalf or schedule a meeting on my behalf. So again, are you having conversations with individuals to make sure that your voice is being heard outside of that one room with you and your supervisor? Again, that relationship with your supervisor is critically important, but it's not the only one that you should be working if it seems like that particular individual is not really working to move you forward. But that then brings up a bigger question. Is the lack of movement indicative of just your supervisor, or is that an organizational challenge? Because if the organization just has limited opportunity, it may be that your career goals and your career vision can't be achieved there. It might be the situation. If it's small, if it's mid-size, and people are moving slow, especially as you get into the upper levels, it just may be tight up there for you to get an opportunity in a time frame that works for your career vision. So that's a question I would ask is, does the organization offer or provide the opportunities that you're looking for? And if they do, and you're seeing other people moving forward, then the question is this organization one that truly values you and what you bring to the table in terms of value? And if you're having conversations with other people, with your sponsors, with whoever's in your network, and nothing is happening, that may mean that that organization, it does not see you as a fit for what they envision for higher levels. And that's okay, but that should tell you that, or kind of spark in your mind, is this a place that I want to continue my career? Do I think that I can achieve and be fulfilled in this organization that does not truly value me or my skill set? And then the last thing I will say here on the promotion topic, so that I don't keep you all forever tonight, is what is the quality of your work? And I know that it's like, well, this is basic as hell. I get that. But I will tell you, there are people who have come to me when I was in corporate leadership looking for a promotion, and the gap between what we expected of them, even though they were checking certain boxes, what we expected of them and what they were delivering, there was still a gap there. And so, is the quality of your work to that level of taking the next step? And are you demonstrating the skills and traits of the level above you? Because it's one thing to do good work as an analyst, and you're cracking it as an analyst. But to get into supervisor or manager, you have to demonstrate a different set of skills when it comes to leadership, coordination, being able to gain consensus, to be strategic. There is more that's expected of you than just being able to execute. And so when you're thinking about your promotion, I ask you to take a hard look at yourself so that you don't get into the conversation with somebody and get surprised. Ask yourself the question, when I look at that next level, what that person is doing or that person would do, am I personally demonstrating the skills, talents, and expertise that is required at that level? Because if the answer is no, then you know that there may be some more work that you need to do before you go and have that conversation again. So no tea or shade. I'm sure we're all working really hard, but there's a difference between knocking it out of the park in your current job and then really knocking out of the park to the point where you should be promoted. I will tell you, as someone who does leadership training, there are a lot of folks who've gotten promoted into leadership positions who have no leadership skills. But it's because they were really good at their job. And someone said, hey, you're great at this. We're going to go give you a team of 50 people. And those two things don't necessarily align. And so it doesn't matter what level that you're at, that you're watching here, whether you're an entry level or you're at the senior VP level. You have to think about, if I'm trying to get to that next step, what does that look like? What is that person demonstrating? How do they think? What do they talk about? How do they function? And making sure that you're starting to demonstrate those things now, so it's an easier choice to move you up. And so we talked a long while about the promotions and not making any money. But I also then want to move on to talking about, if you don't know what to do with your degree and you're not sure what's out there. And I talked a little bit about attending the National Black MBA Fair, and that was what helped me to find kind of where I was going to go next. And so my question for you would be, are you putting yourself in the right rooms? Are you putting yourself in the right rooms? Are you having conversations? Again, it's one thing to Google, but if there are people who have your degree, if there are people who have your skill set, and there are events or conferences, are you going to those things to just get some perspective beyond what you're seeing on the internet? And having conversations like that will also help you to get real insight as to what these folks do and if it's something that you want to do. Because every job looks amazing online. Everything is great. You're having vacations every week. You barely have to work. Every job is amazing. But when you talk to people in real time, they can tell you, hey, this is what it took for me to get here. These are the kinds of sacrifices I've had to make in this job. This is where I felt like my skill set didn't align at first, but maybe I did this. You get a chance to get that context from people in those roles. So I would highly encourage you that if you are feeling stuck right now, you don't know what to do with that fancy degree of yours, really find out where the people who have those degrees, where are they congregating? Because just going back to the accounting folks, not everybody's a CPA, not everybody's an auditor. There are people who are doing a number of different roles, whether it's FP&A, whether it's investment banking. There's a whole lot that people are doing with these backgrounds. Management consulting, making a boatload of money. And if I wasn't out there and if I wasn't talking to people or understanding, which organizations offer these opportunities, how much they pay, what's the culture in the organization like, what's the mobility, because Google won't tell you all of those things. Talking to real people will. So are you putting yourself in those rooms? And then moving forward to before I leave the point of what to do with your degree, if you're lacking clarity, are you actually seeking support for that? And what I mean by that is, or whether it's that you're going to a therapist, a career coach, are you working with someone to help you get clarity? For all the clients I work with, especially on the transition side, we start with the clarity process, because you can have a degree and say, I don't know what to do with the degree. I don't know. I'm confused. But part of it's because you're confused about who you are and what your vision for success is. And so going back to that step is also important. So beyond being in the rooms and having conversations and getting insight and building some relationships, it's also about, are you personally seeking the clarity that you need? Or are you trying to skip that step and get to the end goal? Because if you're missing that clarity on who you are and what's important to you, what success looks like, everything else won't fall into place, and you will be in a perpetual state of confusion, no matter who you talk to, no matter what you Google. So I just wanted to also add that as well. So then moving on to the folks who are feeling, I'm stuck because I'm listening to other people and they're telling me to wait, they're telling me not to move forward. Here's the question. It's a bit spicy, but oh well. Have they had the success that you want? Like, let's be for real. Are the people who are telling you to not move forward, to not take this action step, have they had the success that you want? And if they haven't, why are we listening to them? And again, there's nothing wrong with people sharing their own perspectives. But if you're sitting there and holding on to what someone else has told you, and they haven't had the success that you've had or that you want, or even a fraction of the success that you want, why does their opinion matter so much? And that's something that you then will also have to reconcile within yourself. Again, that self-leadership and self-ownership. If I know that I want to make $250,000 a year in this field, and this is the kind of position I want to get there, and I want to get there in this amount of time, someone who's telling you to stay in whatever job you're getting paid in now, let's say it's 80 grand, and continue to languish there for whatever period of time, and they haven't taken those action steps, they don't know how to make it to 250. They can't help you. They aren't helping you because they don't have the insights that you need to get to that level. So I just want to encourage you that if you're listening to people, ask the question, have they done what you want to do? And if the answer is no, then it's likely that their opinion should hold a lot less weight. And then the last thing I want to say is, when we think about not disappointing someone, so that kind of ties into the one before, not wanting to disappoint parents or friends or mentors. The question is, what happens if you disappoint them? What happens, like in real life? So, and the reason I'm asking kind of the what's the worst that could happen question is because then you hit rock bottom. Once you hit rock bottom, then you can go up from there. And so I had to think about it for myself. If I leave my corporate job and my parents are disappointed that I didn't continue on the corporate leadership track and become somebody's controller or CFO somewhere, if my parents are disappointed about that, what happens? They're disappointed now, and then what? They're just disappointed for this period of time, and then we move forward from there. And especially since I'm building something that I'm passionate about, I'm more worth it to me than someone else's disappointment. And I know that that's tough to reconcile, especially if you come from a certain background where it's like what people think of you is really important. But you have to ask yourself, how important is my success to me? How important is my career goals and my vision? How important is that to me? And why does that not outweigh what someone else is feeling or thinking? These other people have lived their lives the way that they want to live it. So why aren't you? Why would you stay stuck? Why would you stay demotivated? Why would you stay in dealing with a boss who doesn't treat you well? Why would you stay in an organization that doesn't value your insights or perspective? Why would you sit there? Because you don't want to disappoint someone else who's living their own life over there. And so I just want to encourage you that as you're thinking about why you're feeling stuck and you're taking that action step of leading yourself, of controlling what you can control, because you can always blame, well, the job didn't do this and the company didn't do this and they and this and that and the other. There's always going to be someone out there to blame. But guess what? You can't control other people. You can't control environments. You can't control policies. You can't control any of that. What you can control are the action steps that you take on a daily basis to get to the career goals that you have. And so that's what this conversation is about. This conversation is about you taking that leadership and saying, I'm feeling stuck. It's time for me to understand why. Why do I feel like I'm stuck? Why am I here? And how can I move forward? And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up tonight's conversations. I want to quickly recap those few action steps. If you joined late, I saw a couple of folks joined late. And so I want to recap the 5 areas. First, if you are feeling stuck because of the job you have, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel aligned, and you're afraid of failing, by trying something else, the action step for you is to take the time and take a step back to ask yourself, why am I afraid of failing? Where does that come from for me? And how can I start dealing with that? Whether it's counseling, therapy, getting a coach, how can you begin to work through that? Secondly, if you're not getting promoted, if you don't feel like you're making enough money in your organization, what questions have you asked? Is your work up to where it needs to be to get to that next level? Are you leveraging your relationships? And I want to sneak something in here for the job seekers. If you are looking to make more money and you keep getting roles at the same lateral level, are you positioning your skills in a way that shows higher value? There's a different way that you speak about your skills and your expertise when you're looking for a supervisor job than when you're looking for a manager job, or when you're looking for a director position, or you're looking for an executive role. So the question is, are you positioning your skills in such a way that they speak to that next level? Because if your skills are not positioned that way, then it makes sense that you would keep getting contacted for roles that are at the same level, making you just about the same amount of money. So that's what I wanted to mention for the job seekers who may be listening. And also, just going back to the folks who are currently employed, asking yourself, if the opportunity for me to progress in my career, is it possible for me to reach my career goals in this organization or not? Is the organization too small? Are there too few of roles? Asking yourself, are there limitations with what my company can offer? Because if there are, you staying there hoping that you're going to get somewhere doesn't make sense. It may mean that it's time for you to look for other opportunities at other organizations that will allow you more room to grow and flourish. Then moving on to, if you don't know what to do with your degree, if you're struggling out here with that degree you have, are you putting yourself in rooms to learn more? Or are you just sitting and relying on Google and hoping for the best, or relying on Indeed, or here on LinkedIn? Or are you getting into rooms with people who have your skill set, who have your background, and who have your degree and are doing something with it? And this goes for if you have a certification of any kind. Let's say you've got a PMP and you're wondering what else I can do with it. Are you getting into the rooms with people who have those same certifications and finding out how they're leveraging those? And if you're lacking clarity, if you're taking a step back and saying, I don't know what to do with my degree because I don't know who I want to be or where I want to go, are you actively seeking the clarity that you need? Are you working with someone to get that support to help you kind of sift through the cobwebs and sift through the fog in order to get a better answer? And then just going to the last couple here, if you're feeling stuck because you're listening to other people, and I'm also going to tie this to the disappointing someone. If you're stuck because you don't want to disappoint someone, or just listening to other people, asking yourself, do these people have what I want? Are they where I want to be? And if the answer is no, Why does their opinion matter so much? And I know, especially if it comes from family, that it hits you extra hard because we love our parents, we love our grandparents, our aunts, uncles, whoever's giving us this insight. But at the end of the day, this is your life to live. They've lived theirs. It's time for you to live yours, because no one wants to live a life where they wake up feeling empty every day, or you're staying at a job making, whatever the salary is, when you should be making twice that, but you have to take a certain leap in order to get there. So I would encourage you that if you don't want to disappoint someone, or if you don't want to, or if you've been listening to people, does it matter? If you disappoint them, what happens? Does your world end? Does it shatter if you disappoint people? And do these people have the success that you want? And so with that, I just want you to know that your goals should always be worth more to you than how difficult it is to get that next opportunity, what people think about you, and the fear that you have. Your success and your goals should always be more worth it to you than any of those things. Simply because you never want to get to older age, you never want to get to the end of your career and feel like I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Had I done this, had I taken this step, I could have done this. And you don't have to be there. You can actually take the action steps right now. And so with that, I actually want to talk to my finance and accounting people. If you have stayed till the end, I want to share something really exciting with you. And if you're still here and you're not finance and accounting, you may still want to check this out. Just listen, just in case this may be something that you're interested in down the road. So I'm actually launching my group coaching program on September 1st. It's called Elevate. And I'm launching it specifically for finance and accounting professionals first, because that's my background. And I want to help the people who are like me, because I know when you're a number cruncher or bean counter, whatever they call us, that sometimes we may feel like we're stuck in a box. And I want to make sure that you don't feel that restriction, you don't feel those guardrails, that you see that there's more opportunity out there for you. And also, I just hear a lot about get a job in tech, learn AI, get a job in tech, and that's going to solve all your problems. But the truth is, there's nothing wrong with learning about technology, but not everybody's meant to work in tech. That's not everybody's ministry. And so I want to make sure that people who are in these kinds of fields, they know what else is out there for them to be successful. So I want to also mention that. So let me tell you a little bit about the program, because I'm just really excited, because I know how transformative it's going to be. So Elevate is a 12-week group coaching program, and you're going to have access to me on a weekly basis to have this discussion. So here are some of the things about the program that I want to share. Is that the first thing is we're actually going to do some of that clarity work that I talked about. So you're going to gain a real deep understanding of your own goals, and then what are the action steps you need to take there. So no more of this, I don't know. You're going to be able to get that clarity. We're going to help you develop that career plan that we talked about, so that aligns with your specific aspirations, your strengths, your goals. We're going to develop that personalized career plan for you. You're also going to learn some of the essential strategies to help elevate your performance and boost your marketability. We talked a little bit about how you're positioning yourself. The key to being marketable is also about how you position yourself and the skills that you have, that you bring to the table. So we're going to talk all about that. And then also in the program, we're going to tap into leadership development. We're going to tap into leadership development. The reason is because it's important for you to have certain leadership development or leadership skills in order to get into higher level roles. Even if you're not going to be somebody's VP, president, CEO, even if that's not your jam, the truth is, as you ascend in your career, people are going to look for you to demonstrate a certain level of leadership, a certain level of authority. And so you want to make sure that you have those skills. And for those who are on the call who are at that level, if you're a VP or if you're a director and you are looking to move up, we'll talk about what is it that you need to do? How do you need to position yourself in order to get to that role that you want? And what's also really exciting is the networking that you will get inside of this group. And because you're going to be in a group of like-minded professionals, people who are on the same page with you, who are trying to achieve similar goals, who've had similar experiences potentially, you have a built-in network, and you also have a place for accountability. So you have people who will be working alongside you and going through the same struggle, going through the challenges, having the discussions, being vulnerable, whatever it might be. You have a built-in network immediately there for you. And you won't have had to attend one networking event just yet. You already have a built-in network just being part of the program. So this opens up opportunities for you for growth and for collaboration. So I'm really excited to share this program and to roll this out. Again, it's September 1st. So if this is of interest to you, I would love for you to drop the word elevate in the chat or to DM me the word elevate. I want to hear from you. I want to support you on this journey. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have been sitting on this idea for this group coaching program for finance professionals for about 2 years. It has been sitting kind of in the back burner. I'm like, oh, now's not the time. Now's not the time. But as I've continued to coach and support folks and do speaking, I have continued to see the need specifically for finance and accounting, because so many folks feel stuck. They feel like, I've been a CPA forever. I've been in public accounting forever. I've been doing this financial analysis forever. I want something else. And I feel that on a spiritual level, given that was my own journey. So I am so excited to share this program. It's going to transform your career, and it's ultimately going to transform your life and the opportunities that are available to you. So if you are interested in that program and being part of the group coaching cohort, I would love for you again to drop the word elevate in the chat, or you can DM me the word elevate, because maybe your boss is watching and you don't, I understand it's a serious game out here. We're not trying to get found out. So please feel free to DM me the word, no matter what platform you're on, DM me the word elevate, and let's help you to get to that next level of your career. And so with that, I want to say thank you for hanging out with me tonight on the Career Climb. I love doing these solo episodes. Next week, we will have a guest back, but hopefully you found this conversation helpful about how to get unstuck. You don't have to stay stuck. Stuck is a mindset. Stuck is a mindset. It's not an actual location. And so, so you walking away with that, knowing that feeling stuck and being stuck is solely a mindset, that empowers you to take action today, right now, for you to get out of the situation that you're in and start to move your career forward. But I want to say thank you again for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting these episodes and watching week after week. I couldn't do any of this without you guys continuing to be here. So I want to say thank you, and I will see you all next week. Have a good night.